Hey guys, it's Kate, and I hope you're having a fabulous day today. I want to come and do just something fun on this piece of paper. So I've got my mixed media paper with some gesso over it and a charcoal pencil, and I'm going to start in making some marks. And I want to do just kind of a fun little abstract painting today. And I'm going to try some just different marks, experiment a little bit, and just see where it goes, and hopefully we'll have a good time together. I love these charcoal pencils. It seems to be one of the first things I always grab now, and I'm not really sure why, but it's just so nice to write with and get marks down on paper. And I'm just sort of going around randomly, adding some scribbles and marks, and get some, just loosen up a bit. And just experimenting with different shapes and marks I can put down. I'm doing a lot of curvy lines. I don't have to do that. I can do some straight lines if I want to, just like this. And we're going to cover up a lot of this in other layers, but this can be just something fun. All right. I'm going to play a bit with my acrylic inks today. I think that would be fun to kind of go in with some marks with this, and also a bit with my silicone tool, and just get some color on there. I'm going to go in with my brush and just kind of put some generous color on here. And I'm going to spread it out a bit, but first I'm just going to drop some on here. And I don't want any leftover paint in my brush, so I'm just getting that off on the paper. And put the cap back on. All right, I think first I have this piece of twine that I've just kind of had sitting here, and I want to see what that looks like as far as spreading marks, and I love it, so let's keep going. It's kind of funny. So I'm going to see how I can kind of get this flat on my paper. Nice. Okay, let's go in with my silicone tool and just get some of that texture going. I love those little bubbles that kind of happened there. And let's delve into this some more. And just moving my tool around to get some interesting texture. I think that looks pretty fantastic. I'm going to come in with my Naples Yellow Deep to go on top of that or next to it. I'm just going to choose some spots on the painting. This is a more opaque color, and so I'm going to spread a bit of this too. And I might still use my silicone tool and just see how this works starting out. And I'm going to get kind of a thick spot over here. And you can just get some really interesting layering going on. I'm going to take my olive green paint and put a couple little blobs right on my paper. And I'm just sort of rolling my brush around, testing some of these marks, and just letting my brush go and seeing how these colors kind of play together. I'm doing some of the side of my brush. I'm going to do some blobs and some sort of scumbling. And just go around just like this. I'm going to cover some things, leave them out. Just like that. I think that looks pretty interesting too. And I'm going to just take away some of those thick layers of paint and just get them spread so I don't have to wait a really long time for this to dry. I'm going to grab this other silicone tool and just make some marks in here. Just like that. And since the paint's wet, it kind of will go in and reveal some of that background. And I might even come in with my tool and just see what that does. And I still get to keep some of those marks that we had on there, so I like that. All right, I'm going to go back into my gesso to add some white. Same brush. I'm just going over some of these spots just to blend it a bit, add some interest. I'm just doing some brush stroke experimenting. Just like that. And let's break out the charcoal again. And this is going to be a little bit caught up by wet paint, but we'll see just what kind of marks we get on here. And I'm going to have some things kind of peeking through, maybe go over some of this green. I'm just going to let my hand travel. Maybe do some loops here, like that. I'm going to go into my green India ink. This is P.H. Martin's. And I'm going to fill in a few of these little spots that I had sort of drawn some shapes. And I'm just sort of loosely filling those in with my brush. I've been enjoying using these inks lately. It's just so much fun to just play around with the different tones, and they're nice and transparent, a lot of them, so you can really get some interesting activity on your page. things up there. Yeah, I like that. Yes. All right, I've got this stencil here with some lines, and I'm going to spray some of my alcohol ink on it and try to get a little bit of texture on here that's going to be kind of faint. It's not a very light or not a very dark color, but you can see a little bit of it kind of coming through, which is kind of a nice effect. And I'm going to put it especially over some of these lighter areas so that it can show through fairly well. And I like how that looks. So I'm going to stop there and just let that kind of settle in for a minute. And then I've got this other stencil. I've got this black, but it kind of shows up more like a gray. But I'm going to just see how that looks. I think that's interesting. It's kind of wet, but I like the texture. I'm going to see if I can come in and make some more of these shapes with my charcoal and kind of keep going with that sort of organic pattern that we had. And then I'm going to make some just sort of bubbles kind of coming up through here. And just sort of make it a little bit random. And I'm pushing away some of this paint that's still wet. But that's okay. I think I'm going to maybe fill these in with some color. So I am actually going to grab another color now. I'm going to find one. I'm going to grab my burnt sienna, and I'm actually going to mix it with this white that I've got on my plate. So I'm going to pull out just a few little drops, and we're going to mix that up and spread it on the sheet. And that way it'll make it a little bit more opaque and a little bit lighter. And I really like this sort of warm color that we're getting here as I mix it up. It's like just a very nice orangey brown. And I'm going to come in with my filbert brush and fill in a few of these shapes. And I might even kind of go around some of that green. And I'm going to stay inside of my little outlines and just have some fun with this. And so even though I'm using the same color next to itself, I'm staying in these sort of lines that I'm made with my charcoal. And so I'll still be able to get these sort of dark outlines around my shapes. And I've got some green that I mixed in there. I actually kind of like that. I might go back and do that with the other ones. And I think this is really interesting. And it's a very warm color. And it looks different going over the different background colors. It's kind of a nice little exploration of that. This is kind of fun. Okay. And some of that background texture is coming through also, where we had just some sort of ruts or divots in the paint from our mark making with the silicone tool and those things. You can see some real interesting textures. And I'm just going over where we had those random sort of marks from that charcoal. I think that looks pretty cool. I might see if this green is still damp at all. I kind of like that blendy look there. We'll go over these ones. Okay. Oh, I forgot one little spot. Two little spots. I like how that blends with that sort of rich green color though. Okay, let me grab my black and my smaller brush. This is sort of a bristly round. I'm going to go around these just sort of gently. And follow these shapes. And I'm just adding in that contrast back in and just reinforcing those marks that we made together with the charcoal. I think this looks really neat. I love these exercises because you can really, I don't know, have fun experimenting with your brush marks and your lines. And every time I make something, even if I don't really like what I make, it's something new that I haven't done before. And I usually have something that I take away, even if I would consider the project itself kind of a failure. It's not really, because I'm coming away with some lessons, or I'm learning things that I like about something I did. For instance, I'm really digging these sort of organic shapes here, and they really stand out from the background, and I haven't really done this before. It's something new to me, and it just came from sort of scribbling with some charcoal. And now it's turning into something very interesting and fun. And so I can just continue to do this. And then, sometimes when I'm on camera, I don't want to make you sit there and wait for a long time, but I do like to kind of sit and just take a few minutes and look at it. And I don't want that to be something that you have to sit through while I'm considering things, but it is interesting, when you're just kind of looking and something just pops out at you and you just sort of want to continue along with it. And that happened with my scribbles today. So end up having something that is an experiment, it's a lesson. I love these colors, and it's just a great process for building that creativity and exercising that muscle. If sometimes you feel like there's really nothing going on, nothing you can do, but there always is something. You just have to make some marks, and you can always learn. I think I like how I'm kind of tying these in to my main shape. So I'm going to do that. And this is kind of wonky because it's the only non-round shape that's on my paper. But I think that it might work, or maybe I'll cover it up. It just kind of by itself up there. But I think this is really cool. Okay, I kind of like this light blue we have going on from that ink spray, and this color kind of matches it a little bit. So I am going to paint some of this over some of those dark green areas in the background. And I'm going to use my filbert brush again, and I'm just going to put a little bit down to see how it looks, and I really like that. So I'm going to come in here and just come into some of these areas around where my circles are, and I'm just going to kind of run this out and blend it just like this and add some more contrast there. And I'm going to kind of concentrate on some of these spots where I have that dark olive green. I want to knock a little bit of that back and make it more of this sort of cool blue color. And I'm also going to cover up a little bit of this square we've got here. And the black paint on there is still dry, or still a little damp rather. That's okay. I'm just going to cover over it some and just let this color kind of be blocked in a bit here. Just like this. And I might even come in with my silicone tool. Well, maybe not with the silicone tool. I wonder if I can get some marks with my stylus a little bit. Yeah, I think so. Or maybe even with my charcoal again. Yes, that works. Just to bring a little texture back into it so it's not just a block of color. And I'm going to come over here a little bit and come around some of these. I just don't want the green to take over the painting. I'm changing my mind about it a little bit. So I want to still have some peeking through, but I just don't want the big blobs of green. And I like this much better. Might bring this a little bit in here. Just like that. And bring it out and along. I've got some more white out, and I'm going to do a little bit of dry brushing on the inside of some of these shapes, just to give it some extra texture, some extra contrast, and a little bit of just brightening up, just like that. And I'm going to go kind of light, and I don't know if I'll do all of them. I'm just kind of checking out to see how I like it, and then we'll go from there. But I kind of like that it almost gives these shapes a 3D look, so I'm kind of liking it so far. And this is a very nice scrubby kind of brush, and I'm still steering clear of the black, and I might kind of mix up how much white goes in some of these, but right now this is what I'm feeling. And I love this scrubby brush. It just, I don't know, it just has a nice blendy, bristly kind of look, and it's very sort of rough, and it's cheap too, so I don't mind scrubbing it away on paper. So I think it came from maybe Hobby Lobby. The brand name is simply Simmons, but I don't actually remember where I bought it. Shout out in the comments below if you know or if you own a brush like this, or a brush. Oh, see, look what I did. That's why we don't have nice things. You know what? We'll keep the gray. Why not? It'll be sort of another blend, but it's still pretty bright, so I'm okay with that. And I'm digging this. Don't worry, if any of you noticed I missed this one, I noticed too. I'll go back for it. I guess I'm going to do all of them because I do like it. I like how it looks. It's got definite 3D vibes. I keep pulling up too much paint to do these larger shapes, so I don't want to go do that smaller one with my brush load, such as it is. All right, I'm going to pull just a little bit so I can come back and fill in this one. Perfect. All right, let's do this interesting one here. And get just a dab of paint for that one. A little bit more for this one here. And I'm just really putting paint on the tip of my brush. Some of these little ones, I'm not even going to re-dip. I'm just going to use what I've got. But I really like how this is turning out, actually. So, hey, who knows what you'll get when you just put down some blobby marks, right? It's all part of the experience. And sometimes I wonder, you know, I'm sort of on a journey finding a style. Any of you who are subscribers, you probably have noticed I put up a pretty big variety of stuff. I've tried doing landscapes and some more realistic looking things, you know, to kind of try to build some skills with drawing. And then I always really love abstract, and it is so challenging because, you know, I don't know, you hear some people might say it's just blobs on a page, anybody can do that, but if that's true, why do I feel like I always have such a challenge doing that? I'll just put blobs on the page and call it a day and I'd have 1 million subscribers, but that's not the case. Art is very subjective, that's for sure. We all like what we like, and the heart wants what it wants. And I'm trying to figure out what my heart wants still. But the experimenting gets you a lot closer. I'm not going to forget these ones over here because I think they need a little bit of brightness in their lives, especially since they're mostly green without too much white. But I love this layering. It's really gorgeous. All right, what do we think of this? I think this is really interesting. There's a lot going on, but yet we have a clear focus, which is all these blobs. They're beautiful blobs. Big, beautiful blobs. All right. What do we want to do next? Who's to say? I guess I'm to say. You know, I kind of want to do some sort of texture in black, but something very fine. And I don't really know what that is, but I have this stencil here. And I love this sort of dot and dash pattern on it, and I'm wondering if I can kind of just recreate some of that, just a little bit organically, I guess, in a few spots on my paper, just with my scrubby brush that I just used. And I don't want to go overboard, but I kind of like the idea of just adding a little bit of extra dark color outside of my outlines. And I'm just kind of bringing my hand down and doing a little of that up and down on the paper. And just letting the sort of dashes fall where they want to. I might have a couple coming out here. Why not? And come right off the page a little bit. And how about just a few like that? Introduce a little bit of straight lines in here. I think that's good. Now, maybe, I wonder how something like that would look in the white. I don't mind that either. My brush is a little bit watery, so I'm just going to kind of go easy, pick up some paint regularly, and just go to town. I feel like this one is sort of leaning that way. The other ones are mostly straight up and down, and this one has a definite tilt. I wonder if I can kind of fix that a little bit by fixing the outside. Is that better? That might be a little bit better. Let me add just a little bit of black so that I can straighten it out with the black as well. How's that? Now, what I'd really like to do is I think I have a good amount of dark. I've always got a good amount of mid-tone, maybe not quite enough white, because I do have a lot of white in here in the middle, but it's not the kind of white that just pops in your face. This is more subtle, kind of like an overlay. And I'm wondering if I should add a little bit of white. What I might do is just experiment a little bit. I've been really loving outlines on some of my shapes and a lot of my abstracts I've done lately with acrylic. And so I might do a little bit of that here. And I don't know how this silicone brush will work with that, but let's just experiment a little bit. And so I might just do some outlines. And I kind of like this brush because your lines it's hard to control, like when you press down. And since it's a round shape, it sort of has this interesting variable line width and sometimes kind of a duo line, just because of the shape of the silicone. And I kind of like that. It sort of fits with the rest of the painting here. So I might just go ahead and outline some of this, and I think that adds that really nice brightness, and it's subtle too. You have to kind of look, and you still have all those nice midtones, but you also have this really interesting line texture with this tool, and it doesn't look like a mark that a brush makes. So it's got extra interest. And I think that is going to be just fine. So while I was doing that outline, I had this idea that this started looking like water lapping against some rocks, especially with the blue background and these organic shapes. So it's almost like an abstract of looking straight down on pebbles, maybe in a pond or something. And I really love that. It's kind of imaginative, and it does look like some wonderful wave textures. I think that this came out really nicely for me, and I really enjoy doing this. So I'm going to take another look at this for a minute and see if there's any maybe brighter color that I would like to add. I really like this yellow that we did, and I might want to add that into, you know what, why don't we just go for it? And I will just place this in a few little spots, maybe a little bit right here and right in here, and maybe around there a little bit. And I'm going to use this same shaper tool and just kind of spread it around a bit. Just like that. And just play around more with those acrylic inks that we love so much. And I enjoy this a lot. This one is going to be a little bit more textured, I think, but I think that brings that sort of warmth in there into some of these little spots. And maybe I scoop a little bit up and just add a few little outlines. And I'm just kind of taking some of that I've got in my sort of pond area, we'll call it, and just add some extra line in here. I don't want to do it everywhere, but just a few little areas where we can just have that little pop of yellow. I'm going to come back in again with some of this blue just to blend some of this back in. Maybe just tone down a little bit so the yellow doesn't start drawing too much attention away from our rocks, which is what we're going to call them now. But I like that sort of pop of brightness there. Maybe I'll add just a little bit here with some of that extra yellow we've got that was mixed in. I think we can call this a done painting. I'm going to take my tape off and give you the old close-up. I love working on these bigger papers because you really have room to just kind of spread out with your mark making, your brush, whatever it is you're using, and just really take advantage of the space. All right, let's do the close-up, guys. All right, here we are. Look at that white. I love it. And there's so much interest here. Looks good to me. So I hope you enjoyed following along and watching this with me as we explored some mark making together. And I hope you try something like this on your own. And if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe to my channel. And as always, keep creating on every blank page. Have a great day.